Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all finished watching Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt.
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I am your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. John Kruk, a.k.a. Jonathan Byers, a.k.a. Nate Bush, who's been running up that hill. Why? To make a deal with God, a.k.a. Nate 3.0, back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's show, I sit down with Katierose Donahue Enriquez to talk about her new one-woman show, Queen of Fishtown, and so much more. It is a fantastically robust conversation, and that's coming up in a bit here. But first, some quick important updates that I need to share with you about the podcast. First, the mailing list is now live. If you are not signed up yet, make sure you visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com and you sign up for that bad boy immediately. The link to sign up will also be included in the show notes. We'll be sending out not just emails about our upcoming shows, but also some behind-the-scenes dealings and what have yous. This is the best and easiest way to stay up to date on all the goings-on with the Yo, That's My Jawn brand and the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast, delivered straight to your mailbox. You don't have to do anything but sign up and sit back and be spoon-fed all of this Jawn-tastic content straight to your face. Second, a scheduling note. I have so many great interviews banked and recorded right now to share with you that for the next few weeks, we're going to take the podcast to a weekly format. That's right, gang. Instead of taking next week off, you will receive a brand new episode in your podcast feed. That is, well, if you are subscribed, which, of course, you should be. But if you're not, no worries. You can do that right now. Like and subscribe to this podcast and follow us on all the socials at Yo, That's My Jawn. Sign up for that mailing list and prepare yourself to be entertained. Do it to it! All right, coming up, my conversation with Katierose Donahue Enriquez. My guest today is an actor, writer, director, producer, and a dog walker. A native of the Philadelphia area, she moved to Los Angeles and began studying at the Groundlings, where she was invited to join the legendary Groundlings Sunday Company, which writes and performs a brand new sketch show every week. She has appeared in guest spots on shows such as How I Met Your Mother, Two Broke Girls, and The Comeback, just to name a few. She is currently touring with her one-woman show, Queen of Fishtown, a character comedy set in Philadelphia about one woman's struggle to maintain her authenticity while facing inevitable change. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show, Katie Donahue Enriquez. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Katierose Donahue Enriquez. How are you doing? Thank you for joining me today on Yo, That's My Jawn.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great.
So, I do my research and stuff like that, and I look into people's stuff and all, and I have to bring up something that's very exciting to me because it changes my Kevin Bacon points almost, except for not Kevin Bacon. You got to work with somebody who has brought me so much incredible joy, and I say this unironically, and it should jump out to you as we just had a conversation about puppets. But you got to work with Maxwell the pig. I am like,
yes.
I am in awe of Maxwell the pig. All right. It was like the very first one with him weeing all the way home.
Wee out the window. Yes. This is the Geico pig. Yeah.
So when I saw that in your reel, I was just like, oh my God, you got to work with the legendary Maxwell. It was so bizarre that like, that's the one thing that like,
yeah. Well, I hate to tell you, but he's a real monster. offset. Yeah, when he's
Never meet
real
your
diva.
idols. Never meet your idols.
No. There's 5 puppeteers that
Wow.
puppet Maxwell. Yeah. And, here's an interesting little thing. They put Vaseline on his nose throughout the shoot to make sure that he looks wet.
That is crazy.
Isn't that funny?
That's so awesome.
And he's really cute. Yeah. That was fun. Yeah. So it was a Geico commercial I did years ago, but it's a good one. And then they had like a competition a few years ago for like the most favorite Geico spots, and like Hump Day was in there.
Of course.
And, the Talking Money and all those things. And Maxwell didn't win, which I was like, that's messed up.
It was a fix. The fix was in.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. So tell all these good people listening at home a little bit about yourself. Well, where were you born?
Well, hello, I'm Katierose Donahue Enriquez. I was born in Woodbury, New Jersey at Underwood Hospital. I grew up for the first part of my life in Clayton, New Jersey, which is right next to Glassboro and Rowan, which was Glassboro Center for the Arts when I was growing up. Where they had Glassboro State College had Glassboro Center for the Arts there. So I'm aging myself a little bit. And then we moved to Woodstown and Alloway, and I went to college at Rider University in Lawrenceville, right across the river. But my whole family is from Philadelphia for generations and generations. Came over from Ireland and a little bit Scotland. And and so I'm from the Philly part of Jersey. That's what I tell people.
That's the best way to describe it too. So what were your parents like? Were they creative at all, or?
Both of my parents are retired public school teachers.
Oh, nice.
Yes, they both. They just celebrated 50 years of marriage. So congratulations to Eleanor and Phil Donahue. And my mom taught public school at Bridgeton and elementary. And then my dad taught at Bartram for about 25 years. And then Girard Academy Music Program, or GAMP, in Center City, Philly, for the end of his, for like the last decade of his career. It's interesting you ask about them because they are kind of instrumental in me becoming a creative. And I think it was accidental. They just wanted us to be able to participate in things. And so they were always signing up to be like the counselors, and they picked the bingo numbers so that there was reduced, tuition to do whatever, and they were the counselors at Bobby Clark's day camp, where me and my brother and sister went for many years as day campers. And they worked there so that we got to go to the camp. And then they were ushers at the Glassboro Center for the Arts. And for every 2 shows they ushered, they got a free ticket. But there were 2 of them. So every show they were getting a free ticket. So they would just bring me along. And I was able to see so many amazing performances, and the national tours of some Broadway shows came through and things like that. So, and it was at a Glassboro Center for the Arts show that I realized I wanted to be an actor, and they were picking up programs and like, "What's wrong, Katie?" And they came up and I said, "This is what I want to do." It was after the show was over. I said, okay, you don't have to cry about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you remember what show it was?
It was Oliver.
Yeah.
The kids were about my age, and I knew the stage. I can't think of the name of that, the Arts Center right now. I don't even know if it's still called that anyway. But I went to Dancing by Denise in Clayton for dance class. And then I did some Nutcracker with the Ballet South. I think Ballet South still exists, but so I had done the Nutcracker there. We had done some dance recitals there. So I knew the space really well. And during the intermission, I snuck backstage and I hid in between the giant rolling costume trunks. And all the kids were about my age. So they're running around and nobody was really noticing. And then all of a sudden someone saw me and I hightailed it back and watched the second act. But that's when I got bit by the bug. There was something magical about those big rolling trunks. And, it's interesting. I've never done a touring show, but I'm about to right now, but it's all by myself. But, my husband's coming, but, that was the show, Oliver, which I don't have like a great love for Oliver or anything like that. But, I think it was just because the kids were my age and it felt, so maybe I just wanted to be a child actor. Yeah. Listen, this is something I need to bring to the therapist. That's you know what I mean?
I was just going to say, I think we unlocked something here. But no, it's like a very cinematic origin story, like the sneaking backstage and stuff like that. So, not that it was tied to it or any love affair with Oliver. Did you ever get to perform in a performance of Oliver?
I've never been in a performance of Oliver. Yeah. I know.
Goals.
Maybe this is something I need to put on. Yeah. Goals. #goals for sure. I don't know if my singing voice would necessarily, but one of those charactery parts I could do for sure. Yeah. Like one of the real evil. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's weird. Like, I told this on an episode a while back, but like I as a kid, I was in love with musical theater. Like I've always loved musicals, and like Oliver, the film was like one of those ones where I was just like, and I think it's the same thing. Like, because you see kids, you're just like, oh my God, wait a minute. I get to do this. Like, I couldn't.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that we have this connection.
Exactly. I bet there's way more than that. But
we're just getting started.
That's exactly right. So once you got that bug, like, did you start like auditioning for school stuff or?
Oh yes. Well, I think I had done a few. So the Center for the Arts would have the Missoula Children's Theater come through. And I think they are still a fully operating thing. It's out of Missoula, Montana, but it's like 2 people and they travel to all these different, basically performing arts centers around the country. And they show up on Sunday and the kids can audition. And then on Friday or Saturday, they do the show. And it's a children's production of Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast or something like that. And it would be in that week you would do it. And of course, it's like at the end of the week, he's like, these are the greatest people I've ever met. These are going to be my best friends. And then you don't see them again until the nenext time the Missoula Children's Theater comes to town. So I had done that a little bit. And I think that's when I found out I was funny. Because a lot of the children's shows have those big laughs, big character kind of things. And I was just in dance classes and I told my parents, I'm very, very serious about this. And they said, okay, you will continue to be a normal kid. Like they were not driving me to the city to audition for anything. It was, it was just my passion and I focused on that. I did end up going to the Governor's School of New Jersey for acting, which I don't think exists anymore. And then I went to Rider University on a full tuition scholarship for acting, which I don't think that scholarship exists anymore. And the Center for the Arts at Glassboro doesn't exist anymore. So if anybody wanted to really follow my path, it's not a possibility. And that's really sad. I'm sorry, I'm laughing. I tend to do that. So does the character in my show. But yeah, so then I went to undergrad at Rider. And at the end of that, I wasn't sure, do I move to the city? Do I just start, do I flip burgers and go to auditions? And one of my ballet teachers suggested I audition for graduate schools. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I'll only try out for the best ones ever. And I ended up getting into the American Repertory Theaters Institute at Harvard and the Moscow Art Theater. And so I lived in Russia for a little while, and that was part of my master's program. Yeah. So I've just been on this. And I think too, because my parents were educators, that it was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, you have to get the education for it. And so I just school. And then once I graduated, I lived in New York very briefly. I took a level 1 at UCB, which was still pretty new. And then I booked my first equity show at Bristol Riverside Theater, right outside of Philadelphia, and my first film in Philly. And it was like super low budget. I did my own costumes, hair, makeup, continuity, everything. And I said, I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to go give it a shot. And that was 15 years ago. When I got here, I started at the Groundlings, which is, it's like maybe the Groundlings is about 45 years old now. It's the premier improv and sketch comedy theater in the United States, at least. Kind of a breeding ground for Saturday Night Live and Mad TV when it was on, and all the sitcoms and all the commercials and anything funny. And I was in their Sunday company for a little while, where you write a brand new show every week. So you come in on Wednesday. So very Saturday Night Live-esque. And I did that for a year and was in their Sunday company for a year. And so after that, I was like, I think I'm done taking classes. The Sunday company wasn't classes. That was sure. Performing. But after that, I was like, okay, you've built a strong tool belt. Let's see if we can put it to work. And since then, just auditioning and doing, little bits on TV and commercials with Maxwell and a lot of live stuff here, a lot of comedy, sketch. And I did try stand up a little bit, did 5 minutes at the Comedy Store, and I did all right. I just didn't really like it that much.
No,
I've hosted. I like hosting a night of stand up a little bit more than getting up and doing my set. That wasn't for me, but I'm glad I tried it. And yeah, I don't know. I've really just talked forever. So
no, it's great. It's great. You were talking about kind of writing shows at the Sunday for the
Sunday
at
company
the
Groundlings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was writing a thing for you the whole time? Like, because obviously you've written this show. You've written I got to check out Deal Breaker, which was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
I loved it.
Oh, really? Oh, thank you. Oh, good. Yeah, that was just a funny little bit thing. But yeah, that's a fun film we made. The Media Film Festival had us, and that was like 2011 or 2012 or something like that. And we won the audience award, that was fun. It's a short little film. Anybody can look it up. It's online, Deal Breaker. Well, thanks for watching that.
Yeah.
Writing. Yes, the Missoula Children's Theater has like a summer camp that you have to be invited to, and then you have to audition. And they said you had to do a monologue. And I was like 13 or 14. I didn't really know what that was. And so I wrote my own. And I wrote The Wicked Witch of the West and her side of the story. And this was in 1995. 96.
Was one of these people Gregory McDonald? Did he steal your whole thing? Because it's possible.
I don't know. I mean, what I wrote is not wicked in any way. I just wrote like her. Basically, she's going to take Dorothy to court, and she's like this woman. Yeah, and I did basically an impression of the Wicked Witch of the West from the movie, which I was like. After the courtroom, I don't remember, but so I wrote that, and then in high school I wrote a few little things here and there, little sketches. I did I didn't realize I was writing a sketch at the time, but I wrote this sketch that was about like the Eggman and the Walrus, and I don't remember totally, but that was the beginning of writing. And then in college, I did a lot of plays so I was more focused on that. But then I did a lot of improv in college, and the improv shows were really popular at Ryder. And we hadn't done, and no one had ever done a sketch show. And I had gone to Chicago and saw The Second City. And I came back and I said, we're going to do a sketch show, and whoever wants to be in it can be in it. And we're going to write it, and we'll, put it up. And I think Ryder still does the sketch show that I came up with, which is very fun. I love that.
That's awesome.
And I emailed the president of the university, and I said, hi, I'm going to make a sketch show. Do you want to come host it like Saturday Night Live? And he said, yes, which today I think about that and I go, boy, did I have some balls, man.
You took a shot there, didn't you?
Yeah. And I recently discovered this quote from Oprah, who I consider the queen of America. And she said, you get in life what you have the courage to ask for. And so I've been trying to like apply that to the Queen of Fishtown and what's to come. But now I'm looking back on my 22-year-old or 21-year-old self who was just like, yeah, whatever.
That's great. That's great. The
world has taught me to not be so brave, but I'm reteaching myself.
You know, refinding that kind of childlike wonder of just like, why not? Is kind of something I've been doing myself with this podcast. And look, Sylvester Stallone isn't going to come on my show, but I'll tell you what, his publicist gave me the nicest rejection letter that I've ever received. You know,
did you read it? Did you read it on the air?
No, maybe I will. Maybe I should. Yes, it's really nice, but they're like congratulations on your successes and da, 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 da. And I was just like, because normally I just get back like, sorry, so and so is not available. You know, like because people have time. But this was like a long letter of like, you know, we'll think about you in the future. Yeah, man, it was really great. I really appreciated that. So
great when that happens.
It is, and it takes so little time to do too, right? So like, you know, but it means so much, you know, and it's one of the things I like to keep in the back of my mind, you know, like just, you know, always remember that. But like reconnecting to that kind of the in my case, the balls that I used to have, you know, like so to speak. I
think maybe you still have. I mean, I don't know your story, but
but no. What you know? So I keep coming back to this, but also I told you that I love Sesame Street, but my second love was Saturday Night Live. So like my love of just sketch and you know, the history of that show and the history of improv and sketch comedy in the U.S. is huge to me. So like the Groundlings thing is enormous to me. What was the audition process like for kind of getting into the Sunday Company? Or
the Sunday you have to be invited into the Sunday Company after you finish the Groundlings program. Okay. You have to audition for their program, and it takes years to do the program. And my young 20-something self was like, oh, well, I'll be long gone before they call my name. Here I am 11 years after I was in the company. So yeah. To be young and naive and oh boy, gumption. The program itself is great. It's very similar to other improv programs. I think the reason I wanted to do the Groundlings is specifically it's character based.
Yeah.
So, because I had done UCB in New York. Now, I would say to anyone that wants to be an improviser, do all the classes at all the places. It just gets expensive, and I didn't have the money to be doing that. But UCB to me was normal people, regular people in extraordinary circumstances. So it would be like we would just be talking us, but we'd be on the moon. And so then you're kind of coming up with these jokes and beats that you'll return to throughout the improv, but you're kind of yourselves in the improv. And at Groundlings, it's extraordinary people in very normal circumstances. So you have these crazy kind of characters who are just trying to get their coffee at Starbucks or check out at Target. I mean, Kristen Wiig was a Groundling, you know, that kind of thing. So you see these enormous characters who are just trying to get a mundane thing done, but it's funny to watch them do that. So I think both are important. But that was why I picked the Groundlings. And the program is great. It's, you know, yes, and don't say no, and don't ask questions, and the basic rules of improv. And, but then eventually, once you get through all of the improv and you pass the advanced improv, then you start writing, and you start creating characters and writing for the characters, and then you start writing sketches. And so you start usually with like monologues and writing monologues, and then eventually you have to churn out 6 to 9 in a week, you know, and you just try to come up with ideas, and you don't know, you throw the spaghetti at the wall, see what sticks.
It's unbelievable. It's fascinating, what you just broke down about kind of the different approaches, because it is like a very like one's kind of, I don't want to say reactionary, but it's, the external, and one is more internal. And I think, it seems like you are more an internal person, and that's exactly kind of where what I kind of gravitate to is that, more character based instead of setting based. But that's it. Like I said, absolutely boggles my mind that you can create that many kind of sketches in such short time, and then just kind of throw it out and it's next week. We got to do it again. Like that has always like excited me.
I think it's some of the best. I think being in the Sunday Company is probably the best training anyone could get for any career in entertainment, because nothing can be precious. Nothing. So it's like, oh, the jokes didn't work, or they did work. They worked, but you can't do them this week. Oh, well, just having to, it's okay. Whatever it is, we can figure it out. And it turns out I have to know that I have to be memorized in a day, in 3 hours for this thing. And I will be. And so you get to a place where you really learn how capable you are, and how, I don't know, because I think some people, they work on the same short film for 15 years, and not that there's anything wrong with that.
Right.
I think that that's a certain kind of artist. I definitely have some kind of ADD, and that was not going to work for me to focus on one thing. I want to do it. I want to do it as best as I can. And then I want to see what's next,
Yeah. Did the Groundlings connection, is that how the spot on the comeback came about?
The comeback. No, I mean, Michael Patrick King is a big fan of the Groundlings. And so he will like do improv shows there. Sometimes he never was a Groundling, but
Lisa Kudrow,
yeah, I mean,
right? Yeah.
Lisa Kudrow was, yeah. Sorry. I was thinking he's the showrunner.
Right, sure.
So that's who I was thinking of. Like, he's the one that gives me the job. She doesn't give me the job.
Stacks.
But yeah, I mean, he's a big fan. That's how he connected with Lisa, and they ended up making the comeback. So yeah, for sure. The Groundlings is that. The Groundlings has opened a lot of doors for me. And yeah, also Two Broke Girls, which I worked on. Same thing. So some casting directors in LA will just be like, we need a funny woman. And they'll just go to the Groundlings website, and whoever is in the current company gets called in for the audition. And so that happened to me with How I Met Your Mother, with Two Broke Girls, with The Comeback, and whatever shows are happening right now, it's happening for those people who are in the company right now. So, I mean, it's a great catalyst for sure.
Yeah. Are you a good auditioner? Can you audition well? I was never a good auditioner. Like I always think that I'm an okay performer, but as an auditioner, like I just get in my head and there's no.
Oh yeah. I think if it's going to be a cold read, if it's a one and done like audition, a lot of times I think that's why I did well in commercials when I was still auditioning for commercials, because you just kind of walk in and you go. You don't have time to obsess over it. If I have time to obsess over something, I'll be sure to somehow screw it up. I think I'm an okay auditioner. It's such a bizarre thing because you're not winning the room with your audition. You're winning the room with yourself. Right. And that part is where I probably flounder. And I think it's because I want it, and they don't like that. They don't, oh, it's just a lot of, ooh, okay, no, you too desperate, too hungry. And, but I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I would love this job. Just want you to know, I'll do, hey, what do you want me to do? I'll do it. Okay. Can I start over? Yeah. So I think that probably hasn't been, but yeah, with How I Met Your Mother, and I was on what's the show on Hulu?
The
Future Man. Yeah. And both of those I went to the audition and I got the part. So I didn't have to go to the callback. So, cause sometimes at the callback, And I think that's the same for Two Broke Girls. I didn't have to go to a callback. So I think that I'm a good auditioner at the first thing.
Yeah.
Then you say, hey, we liked what you did. Come do it again. And you go, oh God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense because that gives you time to get in your own head. Like, because that's
right. Get in your way. Yeah. Lampoon yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'm an enormous fan of sketch. You put together an all-female sketch troupe, ma'am. Yes,
I did. Yeah, my director of Queen of Fishtown and we met in level 1 of the Groundlings, and then we formed a sketch group called 3-0 Punch. Then a couple of years later, we formed another sketch group called Big Boss, and then we were in the Sunday Company together. And then when we were out of the Sunday Company, we did this all-female sketch show called Ma'am, and it went well. We did it at the Groundlings, we did it at Comedy Central stage, and then Corey was kind of like, I'm ready to move on, and she did, and but she would come back and do the Ma'am shows where I was like, let's get more women and we'll do. And this was like 2013 to 2016, maybe. We did a show every 6 weeks with an entirely new cast. I would be in the show. I produced a show, so I would be in it. I was like one of the few returning. And then Colleen Smith was our director. And she's a puppeteer, a Henson puppeteer, and then whoever else is hiring puppeteers. But she's also a Groundlings teacher and an improv and a phenomenal actress and director. And she would direct the show. And it was a great, great show. Every show was incredible because it was like, I would just, if I saw a woman who was fantastic, I would just email her and say, hey, we do the show. You want to come do it? You can put up something brand new, or you can put up your favorite thing you ever wrote. Whatever you want to do, we'd love to have you come. And we had some amazing people come and do the show. And it was a great time. And I feel like we were a little bit ahead of our time. I feel like the ladies sketch shows and all that stuff, it was another like maybe 4 years, from when we started it, that it really hit. But hey, I'd like to think that we paved the road.
you pioneered you Lewis and Clark, that lady sketch show. Was anybody in the troupe? Did anybody in the troupe go on that we might know of, or
who did, ma'am?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, yes. Have you heard of I Mom So Hard? Hashtag Mom So Hard. So Jen Smedley came. She had just had her second baby. And I had asked her to come do the show. And I think the baby was like 5 or 6 weeks old. And she was like, yes, I will come. Because I think she'd been pregnant a long time. And now she's just up all night. And I think it was like something where, my husband will have to take care of the kid. I'm going to go to rehearsal. I'll be back, and it was great. And I think it was like within a week and a half of doing Ma'am that her and her friend did their first Facebook Live of Mom So Hard.
Wow.
And I mean, I think they went viral in by the end, I think we did the show in September. By the end of October, I had a friend in Scotland who tweeted, I Mom So Hard. And I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. So and she's a dear friend too. She's a lovely person, but so many amazing people have done the show. I'm I'd have to look back at cast lists and say, oh, this person's on this show and this person's on this show. But yeah, sure. So many great people.
So you and Corey met in that first track at Groundlings. And what was it about each other that you kind of gravitated towards kind of working together for so frequently?
I think it's at a first class, and I don't know, it's been a long time since I've been in a class, but I still know when you go to a class and right away you can go, you were on the it's an energy thing. I think it's like, you just know who you like watching, who you're like, oh, I want to get up if they're getting up, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think it was just that. I think she was funny and she thought I was funny. And then we decided, hey, we should, let's just do it ourselves. Yeah.
That's great. It's great. No, it's like that meet cute of kids in elementary school. Like, can I sit here? Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
That is so cool. So, how did you guys kind of begin crafting the Queen of Fishtown?
Okay, so when we were in the Sunday Company, I wrote one of my 9 sketches in that week or whatever. I wrote a Philly sketch. Because we're always doing all kinds of you're trying everything you can possibly think of. And I wrote this Philly sketch. I had this like faint memory of an aunt of mine who was very upset that we threw her a surprise birthday party. And she was so mad, but everyone thought it was hilarious that she was mad, but she actually was legitimately pissed. And so I wrote that sketch. And so everybody in the Sunday Company who was in the sketch had to learn how to do the Philly dialect, and some of them got it and some of them didn't. But that was like 11, 12 years ago. And people will still come up to me and say, oh, I love that Philly character you did. I love that Philly character. And maybe I did it 4 times. But yeah, it was just kind of like in my brain. And my husband, Alex, he's a writer. And during lockdown and the pandemic, he's always a machine. He writes every day. And he's also a comedian and an improviser and a puppeteer and an actor. But he writes. And I was like trying to bake banana bread like everybody else, but then I got to a point where like he had written quite a few things and I was so proud of him. And I was like, I should try to write something. And he said, well, if you have a sketch that you liked, why don't you just take a stab at it and see if you could turn it into something? And I tried it with a couple other things, and I did write a couple other things, but with this one in particular, I sat down and I wrote half of it. And then I was like, wow, I wrote half of that. And then about a month later, I sat down and I wrote the other half. I didn't think about it in between. I wasn't obsessing about it or anything. And I finished it. It was a television pilot. I wrote it as a television pilot. And I finished it. And I was like, I think this is the best thing I've ever written. Like, I'm so excited about it. And so I put it on the Blacklist, which is a website, and a lot of screenwriters put their stuff up, and you can pay to get feedback and get scored. And I sent it to some competitions. I set it for coverage, and I kept getting, people loved the setting. They loved Fishtown. They loved not the dialect, but the dialogue. They can't hear the dialect, but They loved the dialogue. They loved so much of it. And then they would always say, and I'm not kidding you, I have a folder of them on my desktop that says you idiots. But they would always say, this television show is not viable because the main character, Kathleen Burke, that's the name of the main character, she's unlikable. And I just, that really got in my crawl. She's unlikable. First of all, no, she's not. I've performed her live, not her, but a version of her. And people love it. They've been coming up to me for all these years saying they love this thing. I also felt like, would you be saying that if the character was a man? If we switched Kathleen and her husband, Artie, would anyone give that note? Absolutely not. They wouldn't. Because is Jerry Seinfeld likable?
Right.
Is Walter White likable? It's like, no, they're damaged people, but they're so fun to watch. And I even felt like, well, who are you picturing when you're reading this? Are you picturing Kristen Bell? Because if Kristen Bell's in it, she's likable. The end, period. End of sentence. What the heck? So that really got in my crawl, and I thought, I got to show them. I just got to show them. And so that's when I reached out to Corey. And I said, Corey, because she helped another friend of ours from our sketch group and from MAM, Courtney Peroso. She helped her develop her solo clown show that went to the Edinburgh Fringe in 2019 and has done amazing. And they developed that show together. And I called Corey and I said, so I was thinking about, I want to do maybe a solo show. I'm not sure. But I wrote this pilot. She sent it to me. So I sent it to her and she said, oh, I love this. We never get to see a woman work through her anger issues, which I was like, oh, is that what it's about? But yeah, she got it. And she said, yeah, let's get together and we'll figure it out. We got together and I started reaching out to theaters, and it was still very much things in lockdown here. But I just set a date and I said, I booked a space and I said, I'm going to do a workshop on this day, whatever it is. We'll figure it out, what works, what doesn't. Gave myself about 3 weeks and 4 weeks, and I made the play of it. And which isn't, it's part of it's the pilot, but part of it is it's an actual theater play. And since then, it's just been like green light, go, green light, go. Everything that as the Queen of America, Oprah Winfrey says, everything I've had the courage to ask for has been like, yeah, okay. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, okay. So that's how I ended up in the Hollywood Fringe, in the Edinburgh Fringe, which I'm going to in August, at the King's Head Theatre in London, and even Plays and Players in Philly. I was like, well, I can't take this show all over the world and not do it in Philly first. Like, I have to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to bring it there. But yeah, that's kind of the trajectory. I forget the question. Oh my God.
No, that was it. That was it. Was it?
Okay.
No.
I mean, it's a podcast, right? That's
I was just going to say, the point is for you to talk that much.
Okay.
These people listening to this, they hear me blather on every week. This is your floor, man.
Okay. Oh, all right.
But no, so a ongoing theme in this is pandemic creativity. You had mentioned baking bread and kind of working on this. What was the pandemic like for you? As a performer, like, did you do any kind of web stuff at all, or?
I didn't. I think I took the world shutting down as the universe saying it's okay to focus smaller. Yeah. I own a dog walking company in LA, 15 years. It's very small. For 15 years, it's just been me. And then I have a guy, Jason Bobian, who's amazing drag performer as well, Dr. Antibiotics, if you want to look her up.
Beautiful.
And he and I, we help each other out with dogs, and we've been doing that for a long time. And we worked through the entire pandemic. I have a lot of elderly clients. And so I would come, and maybe drop off groceries, stuff like that. And just standing so far away, masks, bathing in antibacterial. And I did lose a couple clients to COVID. So it's been a journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that I don't think this show would exist without that time where I truly unplugged. And I think a lot of artists might agree with me, people who are like really pursuing a career in entertainment. It was this weird time where you didn't have to feel bad that you weren't working on something, or that you didn't have to I feel like that was always what are you doing? Well, what's going on next? And what do you have coming up? Blah, blah, blah. And there was none of that. Nobody had anything. So you were on the same level as everybody else for once. And it was kind of a freeing experience. And I think writing the show, obviously, but then also deciding to do a solo show with it, because I wrote it as a television pilot, has 8 characters. And I'm not getting 8 people together to rehearse something in a small room with no windows and then put it on a stage in a room with no windows. Yeah, right. Are we going to perform this on a rooftop somewhere? No. I'm not. I participated in viewing a lot of these kinds of things that you're talking about. A lot of friends who did, stand-up shows and readings and play, all that kind of.
Yeah.
And I played so much trivia, so much online trivia. Shout out to Walsh Trivia. He's in Baltimore. He's still doing it. And we played so much trivia. We had so much fun doing that. But the pandemic, I don't know. It was really tough and also weirdly easier because you just had to focus on yourself and your health and your family. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting thing. I am what they refer to as an essential worker. I don't understand how selling cooking tools and kitchen gadgets is an essential job, but whatever. It kept me occupied. But when it started, they cut our hours from I'm salary, but they cut it from 40 to 30 hours, and they were like, we're not sure what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, it was the busiest they've ever been as a company. So then that completely reversed, and then so I was early on, I had these plans. I was like, man, the world's shutting down. I'm going to write that song that I'm going to finish that. I have a Peter Pan musical that I wrote that it's like a rock opera. It tells the story of tells the story of Peter Pan as if he's just masking depression, and that's why he refuses to grow up. And it's like this whole thing, which I actually was telling the story about it to my girlfriend the other day, and she was like, "It doesn't sound like Peter Pan. That sounds like." And I was like, "All right, okay,
okay, all right, let's not look too." Yeah,
but yeah, I had all these plans, and then 2 years went by, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I didn't do anything, and that's okay." Well, I guess that's not true. I started this, but this is me sitting in my basement talking to cool people.
So you worked your job the whole time and you started a podcast?
Yeah, but I'm
okay.
But I'm a male in his 40s, so starting a podcast is just kind of something that happens.
All right, I'll laugh at that, but you better give yourself credit.
Oh well. Well, I can't. I physically cannot give myself credit on anything. So. But I appreciate it. But no. But yeah. So that you wrote this show. The pilot during the pandemic is amazing that you could even kind of get to that, because the world went crazy. Not just the pandemic, but the entire world went crazy. Don't know if you know this or not. But
wait, what are you talking about? Oh my God.
I don't know if you were hunkered down writing this, but boy, do I have some stories to tell you from the past few years.
Oh boy.
Does the pilot idea still exist?
Yes. Yeah. The pilot's still there. I think that when I'm done this run, I'm sure I'm learning so much doing it about what people connect to about it. And what works, what doesn't, and mining it and mining it and mining it and mining it for the diamonds. And if anything, it's going to be better than ever, hopefully after all of this. But yeah, of course, the pilot's still there, and I made a pitch deck for the pilot and everything. And I was ready to go. And then I ended up making this show, and I don't know. Fleabag, the show Fleabag?
Sure.
She went to the Edinburgh Fringe, and then she got to make a pilot. So I guess I reversed Fleabagged it. I wrote a pilot, and then and then I made it a play, and then I took it to the Edinburgh Fringe. So I reverse Fleabagged it. Yeah.
Well, it's smart because, I'm not too savvy, but, to me, it seems logical that especially if the kind of places you've shopped it to have that kind of reaction to the character, to be able to show them something and present them something that isn't on the page. That's no, you don't understand. This is the character. I think is huge. I don't know if that was the goal or the plan, but it's definitely a benefit of kind of putting this together. Tell the cool kids and cats at home a little bit about the character.
I'll Okay, so Kathleen Burke is the titular character, the Queen of Fishtown, and she is an OG of the neighborhood. And the show follows her through her struggles to maintain her authenticity, despite everything around her changing. The neighborhood, yes, completely gentrified, but also her kids are growing up and she's growing up. And there's some surprises in the show that pop up, that a lot of change is happening that's inevitable. And she is not too happy about it. But she's also very experienced with change because she's lived in this neighborhood that's completely different than how it was when she was a kid. And her family's lived in the neighborhood for generations, and the show starts on her front stoop. And she's talking to her neighbors, and these are the hipsters who've moved in, and she's kind of, she's poking fun at them and making fun of some of the stuff they've, different shops they've opened and things like that. And then she tells them a little bit about what the neighborhood was like when she was a kid. She tells them about the history of her family a little bit, like, hey, my family has been in this neighborhood since we got off the boat in 1917, and the row home, her row home was built in 1917, but her family's been there for generations and generations. And she's just kind of like taking in all of this change. And I say that the show is a solo show filled with hope and profanity. So she does eventually embrace some things that I think she has a hard time with, but ultimately the show is funny. I want people to know that it's a funny show, but it has its serious moments as well. And I finished writing it and registered it at the WGA. And about 3 weeks later, I saw the first billboard for Mayor of Easttown out on Sunset Boulevard. And I was like, what the hell is this? I was so mad. And then I watched the show and I was like, oh, it's fine.
You're like, oh, fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. No, I think if anything, it's helped because now there's an audience who wants more of that kind of, that dialect, that world. Like, what is this wah-wah? What is this, and so in London, actually, the theater there put up on their website at the King's Head Theater, they wrote, it's like Mayor of Easttown, but funny and with zero murder. Which I love it. I love it.
That's an awesome byline.
Yeah. So I would say that the character of Kathleen Burke is a woman who's facing her change head on. Not her change. She's not like going through menopause or anything, but just facing a lot of change in her life. And I think that although she as a character is very unique and the neighborhood and Philly are very specific, the story is universal. I think it will translate to, I just finished a run in the Hollywood Fringe, and a lot of people came to the show who had never been to Philadelphia, who didn't know anything about Philadelphia. And afterwards they would say, this reminded me of my aunt in Iowa, or, oh my God, that was my mom. And I'm like, oh, are you from Philly? Oh, no, I'm from Indiana. It's like, oh, okay, good. Like I'm hopeful that the same will be true when I get to the UK, that, there's a show, there's a play called Stones in His Pockets that I've seen a few times, and it's an Irish play, and it's a two-hander, two actors. They play like 150 characters between them. I only do 8. But it all takes place in this little tiny town in Ireland that has a very, very thick Irish dialect. You can't understand half of the stuff these people are saying. And I love that show because you get to go into this world that you don't know anything about and live there for a little while. And I think that that's what Fishtown is for a lot of people who haven't been. Now, I've also had people come to the show who are from Philly, and they've been my best audiences, let me tell you. I had, there's a playwright named Chris Haas. He's from Philly, and he had a show in the Hollywood Fringe called Meeting Across the River. And he and his wife came to the show, and then a couple people from his play. I don't know these people. They showed up to my 2:00 matinee head to toe Eagles gear, came in. And at the end of the the emergency exits are here, those announcements they do at the top of the show. And at the end of it, they say, sit back, relax. And as always, go Birds.
Oh,
and
yes.
And they were in the audience and they went, go Birds. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I get to start here, because usually I have to come out and I got to win everybody over. And, and I'm trying to get everybody relaxed because I talk to the audience. And so the fact that I get to come out and start there, and he said afterwards, probably my favorite review I've gotten is from him. And he said, it's about Philadelphia, what's special about us, why we're misunderstood, and what makes us the greatest sports fans ever. He said, I was smiling the whole time. It's fantastic. And a lot of people from Philly said, I feel like I just spent an hour at home. So I'm so excited to do it in Philly and get to start at the jump. Everybody knows where we are. They understand what it is from minute one. Whereas in Hollywood, they're like, she's talking to us.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something there that was in the back of my head when you were talking kind of about the notes from where you submitted it is we are a very misunderstood people here in Philadelphia. So it is kind of telling that people, read this character as unlikable, because that's we're the unlikable, lovable people.
No, nobody likes us. We don't care. Right.
Exactly.
I think the thing is about Philly is that it's a beating heart. That's the part that people don't know until they experience it. So they just hear these stories about, they threw snowballs at Santa and they blah, blah, blah. Oh, they climbed the lamp posts or their whatever. Or wasn't there like a robot?
Yeah. The hitchhiking robot that we killed.
Robot. And it's like, their aggressiveness is funny to them, to us. I mean, to me too, because that's why I wrote the show, but it's like, that's our defense mechanism.
Right.
I think humor is the defense mechanism of Philadelphia, because ultimately the United States of America does not exist without us. And yet the Dallas Cowboys are America's team. No. Come on. No, come on. I can't with this. It's like, we get no respect. We get no respect at all. And, that's what chanting, nobody likes us, we don't care. The thing is, I think we do care. Otherwise, why are we chanting that so loudly?
Right.
But I think that that the city is a beating heart. I think this character and the characters in my show are, and that's the thing that people have been really effusive in telling me after the show, which I love it. I'm so glad that that's translating. That's what I want to translate. That it's like, not only is she likable, but you're going to love her. Like and you're going to love her family and you're going to get it. And I think that there are people like this all over the country, and it's like, are all over the world. We've been handed we've been dealt the cards we've been dealt. And yeah, I can appreciate what I have, and I can, do my what a gratitude list or whatever. But I can also go, yeah, but that freaking sucks, and that's okay. It's okay to say that. And I think some people go, oh God, no.
Yeah, you can't admit it.
It sucks though. We can say it sucks, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's true. Like it's I've always found it fascinating that our area puts off that kind of attitude or atmosphere when really we are just like, someone please pay attention to it. Like, please love us. Like,
please, can someone please acknowledge our existence?
Right.
Like,
and then
none of us would be doing nothing if it weren't for us.
Yeah.
Because my cousin was in an Uber here in LA, and the guy said, "Oh, where are you from?" She said, "Oh, I'm from Philadelphia." And he goes, "Oh, Philly. oh, so like, oh yeah, like the Eagles and Sixers and she goes, yeah, and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and the Liberty Bell and oh, and he said, oh, cheesesteaks and like all that bad food. And I'm like, oh, so we're just known for sports teams and aggressive fans and bad food, which, by the way, is delicious food when I'm saying bad food.
Yeah.
But everyone knows. But, it's not good for you. But like that's our calling card and not the Constitutional Convention. Oh, come on.
It's one of the most bizarre things, and I poke fun at this all the time, even though it's kind of the same thing. Like as much as I'm going to complain about it, I secretly love it inside. The fact that we have a statue that is literally a prop from a film sitting outside of a place,
the art museum,
that houses like priceless art. And every time you go down to the city, there is a line around the corner of people wanting to get their picture taken with that movie prop and nobody going in the museum, I think is very, very telling of, it's the same thing you just said. Like we literally, this is the birthplace of America and everybody's like, man, I got to try this Pats or Geno's thing. I don't understand. Like, that's it.
Yeah. What? Huh? Yeah. Got to figure this out. Oh man, I hope I can turn the minds around of a few people.
That's it. If you can reach one.
The few theater goers that are really looking to have their mind changed about Philadelphia.
That's great. So you were saying you're bringing it back home, and you had to add a date because ticket sales are going so well. Are you excited? Yeah. Are you? I mean, I'm sure you are, but like, are you mentally prepared to bring this baby home?
I'm definitely not mentally prepared. My passport hasn't arrived yet, which I'm chomping at the bit. They cashed my check 8 weeks ago. Like, what's going on, bureaucrats? But I am so excited to do it in Philadelphia. I hope they don't throw tomatoes at me. I think they're going to love it. I think it's a love letter to Philadelphia. It's a love letter to the neighborhood my parents grew up in and where I spent my childhood. And a lot of my cousins grew up in, and going there every weekend. And yeah, I mean, it was alive to me. It was a visceral thing. And this is definitely a love letter to the city and to specifically a person whose voice we never get to hear. And this is a working class woman who does her best, who's smart as a whip, who's funny and fun and angry as hell. And she has some things she needs to say. And ultimately, she gets to say them and work through some things. And I'm so excited to do it. I'm interested to see how it's going to be received. I mean, every show is different, too. It's like, I had that crowd of people in Eagles gear, being raucous throughout the show. And then I had a crowd where it was like, are you guys out there? Are you listening? God, they hate it. They hate it. And then they gave me a standing ovation. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess you were listening.
Yeah.
You never know what and how their day was before they come to the theater and how hot it is in the theater. If anyone's listening that does comedy, just keep the theater freezing. Cold people laugh. Hot people go to sleep.
It's true.
So, yes, we'll see. I'm really hopeful that Plays and Players is air conditioned, but we'll be there the 20th to the 24th, and tickets are on Eventbrite, or you could just go to my website, queenofishtown.com, especially if you know anybody in London or anybody going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Scotland. And I'll also be doing the show in New York City in November as part of United Solo Fest on Theater Row on 42nd Street, November 19th. And if I sell that date out, then they give me another date. It's like that.
That's awesome.
Racket. Sounds like a racket, but I'll take it. Hey, I'm going to be on Broadway. I'm like thrilled,
That's amazing. That's amazing. A long way from sneaking backstage at Oliver and hiding in the
You're
crowd.
absolutely right.
It's
Yes.
beautiful. I love it. At this time, do you want to go through the jauntlet? These are the questions that I asked.
Hey, yeah, I'm ready for the jauntlet.
That's one thing I have to ask. Is there any Jawn in the Queen of Fishtown? Are there any?
There is one Jawn.
Yeah, we're in there.
I did not want to overdo it.
Yeah.
With the Jawn.
Yeah.
So there's one time, and it's not like a huge. It's like if you're looking for it, you'll hear it, and you will appreciate, and then that's it.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. I didn't want to put too much. Ultimately, because a lot of people have been saying I should put the character on TikTok and try to promote on TikTok, and I want to try to do that, but she's not a caricature,
right? And
I don't want people to think I'm making fun of, because I'm not. And so I really wanted to live in truth. And so I'm not exactly sure how to navigate the TikTok thing, because and bow down to, some amazing performers who do the Philly characters. I follow them all, and Aunt Mary Pat's my favorite. And I love them. And that's awesome and great. It's not what I'm doing. I'm not like I'm doing a play. It's theater. It's a little bit, I just don't want anyone to think that she's a caricature, or that she's, I don't know. I hope I didn't insult anyone in what I was saying. I meant to say it as like a compliment. But
no, I don't. I think, from the things you've been saying, the reaction that people have been having to it, I think the character kind of sells itself and kind of explains itself. And I do think, from what I've seen of it, that when people see it, there isn't room to take offense to it, because it's too like. It's too like, oh, I know that. Yeah,
it's raw. Yeah, she's raw. She's a live nerve, and she's also like opening her heart up. And so I think it's like, you could be offended, I guess, but I warned you there was profanity. So what do you want me to do? Come on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So this starts with the one-hit wonders. The first one is just picking a favorite. You don't have to beat yourself up over it. Billy Joel or Elton John?
Billy Joel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an East Coast thing. I keep telling people the Billy Joel love. Number 2, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Debbie Harry.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely, Joan Jett from the area, though. Just saying, you're hurting.
Well, who just played Joan Jett? Didn't the vampire girl just play Joan Jett?
She did. Yes. Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I didn't. No, I
didn't either. Oh well.
Next
Put it in the queue.
That's right. The never-ending queue. There's just so much content.
I'm so behind.
That was the one thing about the pandemic that really upset me.
Right?
So many people were telling me all these things they're watching.
What are you guys watching?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I watched so much stuff.
Right. But, it's like probably the 50th time I'm making my way through Bob's Burgers again,
Yeah, we did that with Community, Cheers. Seinfeld.
Best.
Yeah.
The best. Next one, Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
Okay. Aretha Franklin for her piano skills as well. Of course, because of her and her voice, but also because she could play. But my friend Katori Hall wrote the book for the musical Tina.
No way.
And yes. And the girl, Adrienne Warren, who I think won the Tony for playing Tina Turner, and unbelievable what the songs, the notes, the energy. And then at the end of the play, they do like a whole nother concert. So she just did 2 hours of Tina Turner, and now she does another like half an hour, 45 minutes of Tina Turner. So definitely have a love for Tina Turner as well. So it was a hard one to pick.
I love it. No, good answer. Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Pearl Jam.
Yes, me too. I'm a big, I told you we had a lot in common.
My poster, everyone asks me if it's a nod to Nirvana. Because for people listening, I'm underwater, smoking and drinking a beer, drinking a Yingling, and so people have said, "Is that Nirvana?" And I'm like, "Sure." Wait, does that make you like it more?
Yeah.
If you like it more, then yes, yeah.
Definitely.
Pearl Jam.
Also, kudos on a well-placed Yingling bottle. It couldn't have been anything else, but yes.
I had to have them. My friend John Phoebus brought them out here.
Really?
Empty Yanglings for me, and I have shopping bags in the show, and he brought me out a bunch of Acme, ShopRite, bags, and Wawa.
Very cool. So it's
my aunt Ann sent me a case of Tasty Cakes, and that was my merch at the Hollywood Fringe.
Oh,
and
perfect.
then there's a pretzel company in Los Angeles called Shappy's Pretzels, and he does Philly pretzels. Adam Shapiro is his name, and Shappy Pretzels. And I bought my very first preview performance. I bought pretzels from Shappy's and handed them out at the end of the show. And everyone was like, "What is this deliciousness?" And on Father's Day during the Hollywood Fringe, they came and surprised the audience and handed out the soft pretzels.
That's so
which
cool.
I love it. Yeah. So I had to have all the things. I had to have the only thing we haven't had is cheesesteaks at the show. But in London, I'm going to be doing some cross promotion with Passion Cave, which is a bar and restaurant in London, very popular. They have 4 locations, and it's a cheesesteak Philly bar, dive bar, and it's all Mike Schmidt and Bobby Clark, all the old time in sports paraphernalia all over the walls, and but they're helping to promote the show, and they said maybe we're going to do a cheesesteak thing. I don't know exactly what yet, but
very cool.
So that'll be fun. Yeah.
That's awesome. You'll have to let me know how they are, because I have a friend who lives in England. He was like, "I tried a cheesesteak from this place and it's supposed to be authentic." And I was like, "We'll be the fucking judge of that." But I haven't been able to get over there to try it. But he loved it. So I'm hoping.
Yeah. Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, the guy that's doing it, I think he's from Lawrenceville. I looked him up recently. So he's from Lawrenceville, so just across the river.
Yeah.
And I think they make their own bread.
Oh, okay.
Because they can't obviously get the rolls there, and nobody knows how to do it right. And they tried to do soft pretzels, and no matter what they did, they could not. I don't know if it's the elevation or whatever.
The water.
And so he was like, no, he took them off the menu. He was like, if we're not doing it right, we're not doing it at all.
From what I understand, it's the water. There's something about the water itself, which, water brings life. And if you don't have the life of Philadelphia,
I'm happy for a pretzel no matter what. It's fine. It's all good, especially if we got some good mustard. We good.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I derailed us. This was supposed to be
okay. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? I told you. This is what happens. This is what happens. This is ADHD meets ADHD. It's
Yes, it is. It is.
Immovable object.
Game recognized game.
Unstoppable force. That's right. Next one, Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
I don't think Stevie Nicks gets to be Stevie Nicks without Janis Joplin.
It's a good point. Very good point. Very good point. The big one, Beatles or the Stones?
The Monkees?
Yes, 100%.
Has anybody said that? I was like, they're going to murder me.
So here's the best part, because everybody in the audience went, great, here goes Nate. I'm an enormous Monkees fan. And early on in season 1 of this podcast, I did this whole rant on how the Monkees should be in the Hall of Fame. So anytime anybody brings up the Monkees independently, without me having to force it on them, is a glorious moment in the podcast. God,
I love it.
So yes. Oh. Thank you.
I did not know that. I'm sorry I didn't know it, but I'm so glad that I said it.
I am too.
You never know. People might come for you.
It's true. It's hard out there. It's a jungle. The last one of the one-hit wonders, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
I got to go Bohemian Rhapsody. I'm a comedy girl. Wayne's World forever, baby. Come on.
Of course. We had
Johnny Grey Poupon. If you're gonna spew into this.
my favorite thing in the world to just randomly shout out is Game On. when they move the net back and forth when the cars come by. It's my favorite. Just randomly be somewhere and be like, "Game on!" whenever something awkward happens.
Bird.
Oh yes. Yes.
Go Birds! How about that?
Oh yes. Okay, so the last section of this is the top 10 countdown. These are just 10 favorites. You can use Jawn to be whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be anything specific. You know that. Number one, what was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you were obsessed with when you were younger?
Oh, I took it to be music.
That's fine.
And
I
wrote Uptown Girl because
really?
Like kindergarten. That's the first song I remember being like obsessed with that song.
That's awesome.
I don't know why.
Now we know that Elton John had no chance in the one hit wonders if that was your first Jawn.
I know. It does explain a lot.
Number two, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
So I really took it to be music, but I'll also do TV. The P Valley. If you're not watching P Valley on Stars, it's incredible. And it's strippers in the Deep South, but it's from the female gaze, and the dialect is incredible. The dialogue is incredible. The writer won a Pulitzer this year. It's an amazing show that is not getting enough. Oh, it should have been underappreciated, Jawn. Sorry, I'm just realizing that. But I got to say that, well, the show's also going on right now. But music wise, I heard Duran Jones and the Indications play with you on the public radio here. It's 88.5 here too. But I was like, what's the song? I Shazammed it. I came home. I was listening to With You for like three to 4 months before the album even came out. I love that song. It is like such a party anthem to me. And then Brandy Edis, Bees and Bees and Bees album. She's from the tri-state area. And her song Count to Three has been kind of a mantra for me throughout the Hollywood Fringe. There's a refrain in it where she sings like, and if you think it's gonna be great, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. And I just like, it just makes me feel good right before I go on stage. I've like started to like, that's a song I'll listen to. And so that's the current Jawn.
That's awesome. I got to check that out. I'm not familiar with it, but I love the positivity. That's my,
she's a great writer and the music's great. It's kind of a 90s, acousticy, like emo-y, but she's got a really sweet voice and she's a terrific writer too.
Fantastic. Number three, what was your first concert? What was the first live show you saw?
Oasis at the Veteran Stadium.
Fantastic. That's a
Screaming Trees opened up for them.
That's awesome. That is a great show. Rest in peace,
hey,
Mark.
Great first concert. Yeah, it's not New Kids on the Block or something embarrassing, I guess.
That is
not that that's embarrassing. That's also great.
So my answer for that has always been, because it was the first live show I went to, was David Bowie at Hershey Park on the Serious Moonlight Tour. And then my second show was David Bowie at the Vet for the Glass Spider Tour. But in a conversation recently, I just realized that's all a lie. My very first show, now I was 2. I don't remember any of this, but it came up in it just came out of nowhere in my brain. My dad telling me that my parents took me to the Philadelphia Zoo when I was 2. And the Talking Heads played there. So now I get to say my first show was the Talking Heads in 79. And then my second 2 and 3 show were Bowie. So
I don't know how you have you can't top. I mean, it's so good.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I don't, I told someone the other day when I figured this out, I was like, I seemingly had very hip parents.
Yes. I would say.
Yeah. Number 4, what was your last concert? What was the last live show you went to?
The last live show I went to was the LA Philharmonic doing like a requiem at Disney Concert Hall in downtown LA with a dog walking client of mine. She had tickets and she said, "Want to go tonight?" Okay, yeah, sure. We went. But the last concert tickets I bought were to see Cynthia Erivo at the Hollywood Bowl. And that was, nice. It was amazing.
Stellar. Number 4. That was number 4. Number 5. What was your favorite concert?
My favorite concert was at the Electric Factory in 1999. I didn't know this band. I had just met John Phoebus, who I called out earlier, who brought me the Yingling bottles. I had just met him at college. We were freshmen at Rider, and he had 2 tickets to see Ben Folds 5. And I didn't know who they were. And he goes, "You know that Brick song? She's a brick in a..." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that on the radio." He goes, "Yeah, they do that." And then he told me a couple other songs. I was like, "I don't know anything you're talking about." And then I went to the concert and I was like, I've been a fan for life. It was a transcendent experience. He's a great storyteller, a great musician, and he involves the audience a lot in a way that I think when he was doing it, I don't know how many people were doing that, where he has the horn section and, you guys are going to be the horns on this side and you're going to be the horns on and it was, and I didn't know any of the music. And by the end of it, I still remember hearing Narcolepsy. I remember standing there and hearing it and going "Oh my gosh." So it's a fave, even though I've probably been to 80 concerts at the Hollywood Bowl, and I'm calling it back to the Electric Factory.
No, that's perfect. So 2 funny things about Ben Folds. One, that show that morning, I believe that morning or right around then, that for that performance, he did, or no, it wasn't then. It was the next time he came through. Not that, but he did a free at noon for 88.5 out here. And I got to go to the Electric Factory during the day while it was empty and stuff like that, and watch him just play piano. And it was transcendent. And then the second Ben Folds thing is I also saw him at the Mann Music Center, backed by the Philly Pops. So it was him with an orchestra, and it was absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious. Big fan.
Yes. Amazing.
So good. Number 6, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be living or dead.
Bruce Springsteen.
I have never seen him either. I was a late bloomer to the Bruce thing because, being in the area, all you ever hear is people screaming Bruce. So of course, as a precocious teen, I'm like, no, fuck Bruce Springsteen. And then I heard Darkness on the Edge of Town. And I was like, oh no, I get it. Now this is
okay. Yeah. We have a friend, Bobby Crutt, who's a published poet, award-winning poet. He's a professor at UC Santa Barbara and a literature professor. His favorite poet is Bruce Springsteen.
I believe it. I don't know if you read his book or not, but I literally made it 2 paragraphs into his book, and I was like, you put more work into the words you just used in 2 paragraphs than I did in the entire book I self-published back in 2008. It was.
Wait, what's your self-published book? What is it?
You can't find it. It's not available anywhere. So I shouldn't have even mentioned it on air. No,
okay.
But no, it was just a collect. It was a collection of short, screenplays and stuff like that. But it was called Tony and Catherine and Other Strange Tales of Love, and it was just all really weird, Love at First Sight was one of them. Another one was Love Triangle, all kinds of things like that.
It was love.
It was love.
It was love.
But
put it on Amazon.
Maybe I should dust that out. I did get one really good review from someone who told me that my writing reminded her of John Patrick Shanley, who wrote Doubt.
That's nice.
Yeah, but he also wrote Joe versus the Volcano. So I don't know which version she meant that I reminded her of.
Yeah. Maybe both, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. I can live in the middle of that. I'll take it.
Yeah, that sounds like 2 successful properties. So
that's exactly right.
Haters gonna hate. You take those checks to the bank.
Yes. Number 7, name an unappreciated Jawn. Name something you wish had some more shine to it.
Okay. So I already shouted out P Valley. Um, I I wrote down because I was doing music for some reason, but the South Soul Orchestra. I bought this record for $1 at the Amoeba Music here in Hollywood because I thought the cover of it was funny. It's called Christmas Jollies, and it's like a lady and her, like you can almost see her tush. Here, I'm going to show you it. Okay,
Oh, sweet.
so you can kind of almost see her tushy, and it says "Dance Your Ass" to the South Soul Records, and I put it on. It's like a disco Christmas album. It has surpassed all Christmas albums for me. This is my Christmas record, the South Soul Orchestra. And I didn't even know this. They're from Philadelphia.
No way.
Yes. It's basically a bunch of musicians who play on everybody else's stuff. So they're studio musicians. And then this was their orchestra that they made to just, mess around and have fun and riff and stuff. And there is a New Year's medley that only people in Philly will really, truly love, where they do Auld Lang Syne, I'm Looking Over a Four-Leaf Clover, Alabama Jubilee, God Bless America, and Dem Golden Slippers.
Oh, them golden slippers.
And I remember, and it's like, there's no singing really, like every once in a while I'll hear like some girls in the background, like, boo-hoo, but like, it's so fun. It's like disco funk. And then like, we should be, Philadelphia in general needs to be celebrating some of these artists that they've created. And so that's my underappreciated Jawn.
I love it. I love it. That is awesome. I have to try to see if I can track that down on Discogs or something. That sounds really fascinating.
Ask Alexa to play it. She'll play it. She knows.
It's streaming? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing it. That is awesome.
You're welcome.
Number 8, what's your favorite album of all time?
I really was like, oh no, I can't think. What could it be? What could it be? And then I went, oh, right. Paul Simon's Graceland.
Oh my God. I will.
Yeah.
So if you're a fan of that album, I don't know if you've heard Don McCluskey's latest album, The Chaos and the Beauty, but it is in a similar vein, and it is my favorite album this year. It is so fantastic.
Ooh.
And he does work with Maggie, so make that connection.
Oh, cool.
But
yeah,
yes,
look him up.
check that out.
And listen to that.
Very good stuff. Number 8, name an artist, or number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they release.
I'm going to get so many eye rolls on this. Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh, no.
I know. I'm sorry.
Even the freestyle stuff?
No, I don't care about that.
Okay.
When I listened to In the Heights, I hadn't seen the show. I listened to the record or listened to the album. I was driving down the Jersey Turnpike and somebody gave me the album for In the Heights. And my parents lived basically exit 1. And I started in New York. And when I got to exit 4, it was just tears for the rest of the ride. And I was like, who is this? I have to know what this is amazing. And he wrote about a neighborhood, and he wrote about, these people, Queen of Fishtown, it's like obviously influential to me, which I'm just putting that together right now. So thank you. The other thing, like I was just started to kind of follow whatever he was up to. And I saw him do the Not Throwing Away My Shot on YouTube. And he did it just as like, he was like, I'm going to do a rap album about Alexander Hamilton. And he performed it at the White House and they wanted him to come and do something from In the Heights because he had won the Tony. And he was like, can I do something? It would work because it's, American history and whatnot. And they said, yeah, whatever you want to do, you're invited. And I watched that on YouTube, and then I waited like 2 years for him. Then all of a sudden, it's a musical. And then Hamilton, obviously was a huge hit. And in 2015, I was going through a terrible breakup, and one of my best friends, Susanna, lives in New York, and she said, I want you to come to New York and come hang out. We'll have a girls' weekend. She was in she was doing Love's Labor's Lost at the Public, and Hamilton had opened on Broadway. And I was doing The Artist's Way at the time. I don't know if you've ever done The Artist's Way. Highly
I haven't
recommend.
done it, but I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. And my artist date that week was I bought the Hamilton soundtrack because it had come out that day. And so I had bought it. And she was like, I want you to come to New York. Okay. And then I said, hey, what's Andrew up to? And her best friend is Andrew Rannells. He was in Book of Mormon. Girls. Sure. Yeah. Black Monday. And she goes, oh, that's funny you ask, because he just replaced Jonathan Groff on Broadway in Hamilton just for 6 weeks, because Jonathan had already booked the movie they were doing for HBO. And so it conflict, but Jonathan Groff originated the character, but Andrew was just going to come in and help out for like 6 weeks. And I already got you house seats. That's what she said. Oh. This was the ticket nobody could get for like 4 more years. And she said, you have 2 tickets and I can't go with you because I have my show. So I call my niece, Jada, who is she's a freshman musical theater major at Pace. She's mixed race. Like Hamilton is her Jawn. Yeah. I called Jada and I'm like, hey, it's Aunt Katie. She's like, how are you? You know, she knew about the breakup. Well, I said, I'm coming to New York. Okay, I'll see you whenever you want. I said, well, I was wondering if you could do me a favor. I have to go see the show. I don't know. Like, I have an extra ticket. Of course, I'll do whatever you want. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Hamilton. She went, it was like the best aunt moment of my life. And the end of the show comes and Andrew put us on the list to come backstage. So we go backstage and it's like the star-studded. I mean, I think the Reverend Al Green was there. Like, it was like crazy. Like, you know, the president could have been, like, it was the amount of stars on the stage. And we're just walking around. And luckily I have a 19-year-old who's sobbing and saying, yeah, you're living my dreams. You're paving the road for me. And so I just hawk her on anybody I want to meet. And I'm like, oh, my niece, she needs to, but also I want to meet them. It was funny because there were in the show, I don't know if you know the show, but
I do.
The guy who plays in the first act plays Hercules Mulligan. In the second act, he plays James Madison. And in the first act, we're watching the show and I lean over to Jada. I go, he's my favorite. You know, he does the like, you know, that stuff. And he's the spy and all that. And she goes, yeah, he's so good. So we're meeting everybody and taking pictures with all the stars. And I see him standing alone. And I said, hey, it's our favorite guy. Let's go say hi. So we walk over to him and I go, hi. And he goes, Katierose? Whoa. And I was like, what? And he's like, I thought it had to be you. I saw your name on the list to come backstage. Like, how many Katieroses can there be? And I'm looking at him going, and he's like, you don't remember me, do you? And I'm like, oh no. And he's like, you were my first improv teacher.
No way.
Yeah, like maybe 12, 13 years before that. And he's like, it's okay. I look totally different. I'm a man. I'm a grown ass man now. And I'm like, oh my God, Oak. Like, I just like didn't. He's a grown ass man. And I met him when he was like 16, you know, and taught him just for a month when he was 16. And I was like, hey, my niece can tell you, I said you were my favorite even before I knew you were a student of mine. And so that was amazing. Yeah. He went to the New Jersey Governor's School and by then I had graduated and moved, and then I was coming back to teach. And so it was the synchronistic moment of like, if you've ever done The Artist's Way, it's so satisfying when you do your artist date with yourself, which was, I bought the album, and then something will like yes and you later in the week. And there it was. And I was like, you're going through this breakup, but it's okay. People love you from before you were with that person. And it's, So sorry, that was a really long story. I'm sorry.
No, that's fantastic. I love it. You know, I did make a jokingly eye roll at the Lin-Manuel thing, but the stuff he's done with Disney is just absolutely amazing and like
incredible.
It confuses me because I am a bit of a hater, as the kids say. So like I have to like accept that like I maybe do like him.
Yeah, I think part of it is that he's so earnest.
Yeah,
and I think that especially for people from where we're from, we don't know how to interface with that kind of vulnerability, that kind of raw, like passion of just, but let's just love and love and love and love. And we're like, oh, okay. All right. That's enough. Calm down. Yeah.
This is actually another part of it. And it is very Hamilton based on what, where this all started. And it was, he wrote himself a character where 3 women are in love with him. And I'm like, get over yourself, sir. Get over yourself.
Well, that's just the history.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. We know what you're doing, Lin-Manuel. We get it. Okay.
Yeah, we got you. We got your number.
It's fantastic. The 10th and final of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time?
I don't know. Maybe like Singing in the Rain or something like that.
That's a fantastic answer. That to me, okay. I don't know if you meant the song or the movie.
The movie, yeah, the movie. Yeah,
that movie. I don't know how much you know about the history, but that movie literally exists because they owned the rights to all of those songs, and they were like, "Make us a show," and that they did that, and then made one of the greatest films ever made.
Ever?
Is like it's one of those things that like creativity just will strike wherever it needs to strike if you are creative, and I love that movie.
I think too, it's sometimes that having boundaries or having the things you have to do sometimes makes you even more creative than if you just had a blank canvas,
Definitely.
Best of both worlds, I guess. But yeah.
Definitely. So you're doing the Queen of Fishtown and you're taking it all over the globe.
Yes.
Have you thought about a follow up at all, or are you still too into this right now to even?
My
think
husband
of next?
Alex, he keeps saying that. He's like, you got to figure out what you're doing next. I'm like, I'm doing this right now. This is so much. I'm self-producing, so it's like we're in 6 different cities. That's 6 different board operators. Lighting and tech and press and just having to print posters with different theaters at the bottom and having to get graphic design for that, and it's so much work. It's the hardest I've ever worked in my life. I haven't been sleeping since I found out I was going to the Edinburgh Fringe, and then everything else kind of filled in, and I go to sleep and then I wake up in a terror that I'm going to get COVID and have to cancel the whole thing, and it's the hardest I've ever worked. It's also the most excited and fulfilling experience I've had as an adult creative person, both doing the show, but also building it. And this is a masterclass that I've given myself. Most people have a producer. Most people, hire people. I don't have money like that. And everybody keeps calling and asking for advice, how to do this, that, and that. I'm like, guys, give me till, like October, and then we'll sit down and I will give you everything I've learned on this like crash course masterclass of how to produce your own show and take it all over the world. And it's been amazing. And so I don't know what's next. I'm also open to what might come from this. Like, maybe I'll sign with a cool agent. Maybe somebody will say, oh, we've been looking for somebody to play this kind of part, and I'll get the audition because they saw the show or whatever it is. I have no idea. So I've taken my hands off the wheel in that sense, just trying to control what I can.
Definitely.
That
makes sense. So if these listeners and viewers would like to find you on the internet or find any more about you, what's the best way to track you down?
Well, if you go to queenoffishtown.com, all my socials are there. My email, you can email me. You can find my IMDb. You can watch my acting reel. You can watch the 1-minute trailer for Queen of Fishtown. So that's a good catch-all. If you want to look me up, if you're still listening, have I set the record? Is this the longest? That's my Jawn podcast.
It's not. It's up there. It's up there, but it's not the longest. There's one, and I'll just I'll request that people go find out which one themselves. You'll have to dig through and figure it out. I'm not going to give you the spoilers, but there's one that went, I wasn't paying attention and it went insanely long. And then I just put it up. I said, hey, this is what we did.
Hey, whatever.
Give it a
And they'll
listen.
turn it off if they've had enough.
Exactly. It's a podcast. I've listened to 3-hour podcasts before in a car ride and stuff like that. Like the medium kind of allows it to kind of breathe and let you have.
Yeah, my husband always has a podcast on. He's in the shower. There's a podcast. He's cooking dinner. There's a podcast. It's like whatever he's doing, there's a podcast. So yeah, I mean, it's just like a conversation, an interesting conversation that you tune in and you tune out, and
yeah. And what's the best thing about, I made that joke that like I'm a male in his 40s, so I had to have a podcast. But one of the reasons I started this podcast was I saw this meme, and it was the perfect joke. One of the best jokes I've seen written in a very long time, and it was listening to I finally understand what it must feel like to be a ghost by listening to a podcast and knowing the answer to a question that the host can't figure out. And it's so profoundly astute. Yeah. And that's exactly, so like, I was like, oh, I just have to have my own, I guess, to have these conversations so I can be the person who can't think of what I wanted to say.
Right. No, that's great. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for doing this, and thank you so much for continuing to create and to put something out there, and for giving a perfect showcase for the beautiful people who live in our area, whose voice never gets out there, and if it does, it's some kind of cliche or
yeah, they like to put the spotlight on the baddies, and it's like,
exactly.
Come on, we're mostly good.
So thank you so much. Do you have anything else you'd like to impart?
I just want to say thank you for a terrific conversation. If you're still listening to this, you're the best, man. You're the best. This was so great. Thank you so much. What a wonderful artist chat.
How fun was that? My thanks again to Katierose for joining me on the show today. You can see Katierose perform The Queen of Fishtown this weekend, July 21st through 24th at the Plays and Players Theater in Philadelphia. Tickets and links to the show's socials are available at www.queenoffishtown.com. And those links are also included in our show notes. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from. And I know it's a lot to ask, but if you want to earn yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout merit badge for citizenship of the world, you can do just that by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for articles, merchandise, and links to all of the previous episodes of this podcast. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight to your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at YoThat'sMyJawn, and search Yo That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out, and touch some Jawn. All right, my friends, that is it for this week. Do not forget, we are back next week with an all-new episode when I am joined by the band Phantasm. It is a great chat, and you will not want to miss it. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be...
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.